Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another BMF Discussions podcast. I'm your host, Richard Billy Jr., and tonight I'm joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie. How's it going, Dana?
I'm doing good. That's four pump Charles to you.
Yes, some excellent acting by Russell Hornsby in his very funny faces that he makes in these scenes. Yeah, we'll get into that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we are finally back after the week break that they had for BMF to talk about episode 6 titled Homecoming. Now, let me start by saying this was once again another very good episode of BMF. Um, I actually have about 4 questions that I wanted to ask right off the bat because a lot of things happened in this episode. So I want to get people thinking about answering these questions and their thoughts as to what they think is going to happen next. So we will get into some of the other specifics in the actual show. But first, let's get
Uh-huh.
into these questions. Okay. So my first question has to do with B-Mickie. Now, before I
Mm.
ask the question, let me give a little bit of context. In tonight's episode of BMF, we saw B-Mickie basically a lot of things happening with the character. Now, he did have a dream about Kato and the fact that he was rubbing on her belly, talking to his baby, and then he woke up, and then of course when he woke up, woke up to the reality of Meech was coming to let him know everything was okay, that he had set up shop in Atlanta, and that now he pretty much was ready to make use of the contact that B-Mickie was supposed to be looking into, the connect rather that B-Mickie was supposed to be looking into. So we saw that they had a very awkward exchange because when he went to dap him up, B-Mickie did not want to dap him up. He's obviously still jealous that Terry and was the person that Meech decided to work closely with when really that's supposed to be his right hand man. So obviously he wasn't happy about that. I understand that. Okay, but later in this episode, as we see B-Mickie, um, he decides that he's going to try and basically work. He's still working with Detective Bryant to set up the sting operation to basically take down Meech. And you see that moment when they meet up again at the record store, and they have a nice little conversation. And then this same conversation, Meech tells him that yes, he bought the burial plots for Kato and his mom, and he also was going to finally give him territory to control. At that point, you saw B-Mickie was very sad, and he basically alluded to Meech that I have a wire in my hat, and so on and so forth. And they decide to escape out of the back of the record store. So after that happens, um, the next exchange they have, you see Meech is angry because all this time he thinks B-Mickie basically has been lying to him and working with the feds. The next shot you see, B-Mickie basically looks like he gets kidnapped and beaten by somebody. So my first question of tonight is, who do you think kidnapped B-Mickie? Now, there were a lot of clues in this episode as to who it could be, but before I give my thoughts, Dana, how about you go first and let us know who you think kidnapped B-Mickie?
First of all, I just want to do a slight thing that he was also upset that he was basically abandoned when the two brothers went to Atlanta. It was Atlanta, and there was no connection. He was like, that was the whole. I don't use cell phones. Well, not cell phones, but phones. Sorry, I'm not. That's a whole different time period. But he's basically saying I don't use phones, so why would I call you?
Yeah.
At this moment, I really feel that he feels isolated from the group, which is kind of why he immediately went to the detective Bryant, and that's when Detective Jen, figured out and saw what was happening, and she's like, "Yay, team!" So she's part of the team too. So I think it's more of a one. We already established the jealousy, which again I don't understand in terms of that's his brother. You're never going to be able to replace his brother. They have that very close connection. Even if you fall out, that's his brother. There were many times when they both said, I can't stand you right now, but I'm here for you. So that is his brother. And the dream sequence with Kato and the baby, I wonder if this was like everything that I lost because of the environment that I am in, coupled with the jealousy of not being included and being the right hand man. And then also, he's very young too. So your brain is not fully developed to fully see certain situations. So that right there, I wanted to speak upon. Now, who would have kidnapped B-Mickie? First, I thought he was dead until I heard, like, I saw the bag. I was like, oh, they're going to put a bag over his head and then shoot him. But he ain't dead. So I'm like, yay. In terms of kidnapping, my brain immediately went to the brothers, but then I realized that wouldn't make any sense. It's too quick. It's not like the next day I'm going to kidnap you. So that made no sense whatsoever. I do think that it could be we had a conversation with the Colombians. And remember the conversation with K9. They wanted to move in with K9, the Connect. Remember that was that whole situation? So maybe, I don't know, it might be them. Um, because at the end of the day, they're keeping him alive. So I think it's something where they still need him. So it might be one of the connects. I feel like I'm terribly wrong, but let me know what you think.
Well, that actually, there's a question I have later that is about the Colombian thing because obviously, you know that Meech, he hears that K9 does not want to pay his Colombian Connect 20 million. And obviously that's going to be an issue that we're going to get into a little bit later because that is something that's a foreshadowing of what's to happen, I think, in the future. But
And that made no sense to me.
oh yeah, it doesn't make any kind of sense, but we'll talk about that later. But to answer the question of who I think it is, I agree. Well, first and foremost, it's not Detective Bryant. It's not the detectives because they don't need to cover up who they are to take someone out. Obviously, they don't need to go that route. They'll just come there themselves and then hold them at gunpoint, whatever. So it's not them. I'm going to make the guess that I mean I think that it could be Lamar because the thing about Lamar is that you saw at the beginning of this episode, he took out Saki, who is another person who was a part of the gang, and
That was
we saw
brilliant.
this. Yes, you say what?
I said
What'd you
that
say?
was brilliant and hilarious. Can you hear me?
Yeah. It
I
was.
said that it was brilliant. It was brilliant and hilarious at the same time. Like, call the ambulance, and all you just see is these giant-sized holes all in his stomach. And like, wait,
Well,
why?
it is hilarious to me that a lot of these people getting killed in broad daylight, and there's no no police around. They come later, all this other stuff. Like, wow, that was so. It is funny in those regards. Yes. Um, But but the reason why I say that is, we did see in this episode that Meech, he actually made other friends who are part of, also friends with K9, and he basically asked them to help him take care of Lamar. And later in this episode,
Oh,
Lamar had,
really?
he killed those guys without a problem. He
Good.
killed them. So I kind of feel
Yeah.
like it could be Lamar that did that, um, because we did see that. Lamar is obviously he's focused on both of the brothers, but in order to get to the brothers, you can also go after people that are part of their organization, and that's what he did at the beginning of this episode. So I think it could be Lamar. Um, like you said earlier about Terry and Meech, I don't think they would necessarily dress up and do that. They can just go there and confront him directly if they needed to. I don't think they're going to dress up. But they did this for a reason. So I'm curious to see who it is. Obviously, we'll get the answer next week. We don't have to wait to find out who it is. But yeah, next week, I'm curious to see who it is. But I think it's definitely somebody that wants to come after Meech and Terry. So I think Lamar is a very good candidate for that.
What's really interesting was, yes, we got still crazy Lamar, but he was subdued very much during this episode. And so I was wondering, did Lucille's prayer kind of just steady him for a moment? we know that he's still gonna go after the brothers, that we know, but he seemed he seemed more happier this episode for some strange reason. Like, granted, he did his killing, where when he took the guy's ear off and everything. That's gonna always be Lamar. But to me, he seemed really happy. He found Blackie. He has his dog. Remember, he was showing him around. He went to the girl that's not
Wanda.
Lawanda. No, it is Lawanda. It is Wanda. He went to Lawanda. Look at my dog. And he's happy with the dog, and you saw like the metaphor of the dog's life and his life when he was growing up in foster care, and he's like really close to it. Remember the whole sequence with Alvin? Alvin's like really upset about this, but he ate all his food, and then he made him apologize to the dog. But it was like a happiness to him. So I agree with you with Lamar, but I won't be surprised if it's not, because he just seemed a little happy. Like he was focused on himself and with Blackie, even though he still did what he did. See, Blackie kind of calmed him down. See, all of the killing happened before he got Blackie. And now with him and Blackie, well, no, that's a whole lie, because remember, he shot the dude in the face when Blackie he was barking in the car. So, yeah, but it was still like a happy shot. So, we'll see.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It was happy.
We're not happy. Like, hey, boom, boom.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lamar is still a bit crazy. The dog
He'll
will,
always be crazy.
the dog, like you said, that's a very good metaphor of the dog related to his life. So that could be something that centers him. But I have a feeling that dog is going to get killed before the season is over. That's just I have a feeling
See,
because
I'm
it
okay
just
with them killing everyone, but not the dog. Don't kill the dog. Literally take out the whole cast, but the dog has to remain standing.
hey, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But overall, I am very curious to see who actually kidnapped Bryant. So if there's anybody that uh, has a theory,
B-Mickie.
feel free to B-Mickie. I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. Well, Brian Mickey. That's his real name, right?
Brian Mickey.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. But if there's anybody that has a theory about who kidnapped him, definitely leave your comments in the comment section because I'm curious to hear what you all think as well. Um, did you have anything else you want to talk about on this topic before I ask my next question?
No, I was thinking of the Philadelphia kids, but no, the two are dead. And I don't think the rest made it down there yet. So
Well,
no.
well. I think that's a very good theory too. We do know that there's some tension going on within the group. You saw people, and I think that's something that Terry and Meech are going to have to deal with because I think, and I have a question coming up about that, so we'll get into that. Um, but before we get there, well, go ahead.
Remember when the guy approached, I think it was Meech, and asked for his money back because the drugs he felt weren't effective enough?
Yes. Yep.
It could be a part of their people, because for me, I feel that they didn't put him down. He could easily be a threat because it's affecting clientele. People were kind of miserable about that not being effective. And he came up there, you thought he was going to do something. And the way how they beat him down, it was kind of like, that's okay, I'm going to get my big brother. And that could lead to the kidnapping and something else.
That's definitely possible. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, we'll have to wait and see, just for a little bit of time. Not a long wait. We'll know for sure
Uh-huh.
next week. But yeah, those are very good theories. So we'll see what happens from here. Um, okay, let me ask my next question, and we're going to have a little bit of fun with this question.
Mhm.
We need to talk about your favorite character on this show, Charles Flannery. Okay, now this is a very simple question. We
Yeah,
saw what
ho
happened in
ho.
this episode. No, we saw what happened in this episode. We saw him. take Lucille out to a restaurant. They have a nice discussion. She confesses to him that she thought he was cheating, and he says no, he would never cheat on her.
He
And
didn't
of
lie.
course, well, I don't know about that.
He phrased it.
he,
Remember, she said, "I thought you was cheating on me with sister. Was it Cecile or Shirley or one of the two?"
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
she used his name. She says, "I thought you was having an affair with Sister Riley," and she blamed the dirty magazines for putting those evil thoughts in her head. And he
yep,
responded with, she said, you're a good man and a faithful husband." And he said, "I'm not cheating on you with Sister Riley." That's all he said.
yeah. That's right. That's all he said. And then
He never lied.
the next time we see Charles, he goes back
Mm.
to apologize to Mabel, says, "Oh, this cannot happen again." And of course, he is seduced once again. So my question is, this is a very simple answer to this question.
Mm.
Is Charles a good and faithful husband?
See, here's
Yeah,
the
so go
thing.
ahead, Dana. Yeah.
As you already know, I flip flop between the two of them. Well, I'm like, oh, it's Lucille's fault. It's Charles' fault. It's Lucille. She's driving him insane. I would cheat too. Cheat, not affair. Affair is different than a cheat. Affair is long carried out. Okay? So this now became an affair. Um, and what's interesting about this affair situation is like all she does is show up naked and that's it. You don't even have any willpower to be like, no, I love my wife, and storm out the door, and then she has to fight you and be like, no, you can take it all. He was just like, she was naked. He turned around and then boom, it was on. And I'm like, what kind of decency? I don't understand where his mindset is, because I understand the frustration at first, but his actions now is confusing me. Where I know it's not love. Is it just lust? Are you that incapable of refusing the lust? And if that is the case, I am team. I don't know what it is. It seems I'm team Lucille at this point because you're doing too much. You're doing way too much, and that whole couch situation was way too much. What the Jesus prayer saint thing right there as you're cheating on your wife.
Oh yeah, well, that was a funny touch to add that to the shot.
The the
Uh,
the little angel thing.
yeah,
So
I found that hilarious. So, what I will say is, I agree that obviously Charles is in the wrong, but I do want to say this. This goes back to the conversation that Pastor Swift had with Lucille several episodes ago when he said that she should be submissive to her husband and all this other stuff. At the point of when Charles was still he didn't reconcile with Lucille yet. The first woman that basically opened up to him was Mabel. And after that happened, I kind of feel like he was doomed after that. Now we saw in the previous episode after he hooked up with Mabel, he hooked up with Lucille. But the whole thing is that she was the one to get to acknowledge that he was, he's hardworking, he deserves stuff, all this other stuff. So because of that, um, she was not there to, not there to when he wanted to, have spent some time with his wife. He wasn't able to get that previously, so he looked for it elsewhere. Obviously, he does not
mm,
love Mabel, and I agree 100%. This is about lust. But yes, he's in the wrong. But all I'm saying is that I understand why that happened because he wasn't getting this at home previously because they've been having some tough times. So this is why he went down this path. And again, a very bad decision on his part, but he is doomed, I think, for the rest of the season. And I cannot wait until Lucille finds out because Lucille is definitely going to find out sooner or later.
then it's not lust. it's feeling unappreciated,
Yeah,
and there is just that connection of feeling appreciated, even though he knows that it's wrong. He loves his wife, but he still feels unappreciated, and I think that he is, I don't know the proper term, but because things are not happening quickly enough for him in terms of being fully appreciated, despite that one date, he's not allowing for things to evolve and grow. He is going to use Mabel as that appreciate me situation.
yep, exactly.
But if you go back to the interview that I did with Christine Horn, who plays Mabel, she is not going to give up what she wants so easily. So I feel that this could be a situation where he is trying to walk away and she is going to keep turning him down. Whether or not this ends up being a situation where Lucille has to get involved, I don't know. But for right now, I feel that this is not going to obviously look good for him. But there may be some concerning parts because what happens when she's unable to let him go? And if he is willing to sacrifice his life for this person, what happens when she gets bored? So I'm all for it. He needs to learn a lesson.
Oh well, he will learn a lesson. Like I said, I can't wait. I cannot wait for Lucille to find out because there will be hell to pay. And as for Mabel, as far as Mabel is concerned, you had mentioned that you think Charles is going to continue to try to resist Mabel. After watching this episode, I kind of feel like Charles is not going to be able to resist. He's going to be over there again. He's going to be finding ways to get over there again. Oh, let me and then let's see what happens if Lucille invites Mabel over for dinner, and then all of this stuff is revealed. I kind of feel like all of that could happen now. So it's but Charles is going to be he's not going to be able to resist. I think we know after watching this episode, it's a wrap for him. So
I just
we'll see what
I just
happens.
really want, my whole thing is I want him to be able to cover this up by him being able to fix up his own home. Because it's looking raggedy and Mabel's home is looking like it's being renovated all the time. Fix up your own home. What is going on? Cover your
It,
tracks at least.
yes, and that is also a metaphor for their relationship. They need to focus on making their relationship better instead of worrying about what could be happening outside the relationship. So that's why I said they need couples counseling or something. But I think
And from a
I think
man, not from a
it's too
woman.
late for that. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think it's too
Stop it.
late for that. But we'll see what happens.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's too late for that. I feel like, and this is the problem that I probably end up having with Lucille. I don't want her to keep being disrespected just so she can hang on to a family and a marriage. And if you really look at it this point, with this episode, Lucille is losing everything. She doesn't know what's really going on with Charles, but she is about slowly to lose everything. Her kids, the whole situation with school, right? She held on to Terry as to maybe this will be the one that I can save. I don't know what's going on with the little one. We'll get to the little sister, but this can be the one that I can save. But with this episode, she realizes that she's losing him too. So she, I feel, could be turning to Charles more for, well, it's just us and the little sister. But in terms of like the core kids are slowly getting out of the house, or we're gonna have to kick them fully out the house because of what's going on with Terry and him not going to school anymore. Um, and then when she finds out what's happening later on with Charles and the affair, who is she without those two elements in her life? Who is she without the two boys and her husband? She still has her girl, but what ends up happening, I don't know, and it's a lot for Lucille to deal with. And I look forward to when I have to speak to the actress who plays her this week, tomorrow.
Yeah. See, I look forward to that as well. So we'll see what happens. But very good thoughts overall. Um, So I think I'm going to go to the next question that I had. Uh, and again, this is going to be another fun one. Now, in this episode, this was a very big episode for Terry in terms of things that were happening in his personal life. So we saw that, obviously Wanda finds out that Terry is now back working with Meech, and she tells him, "Oh, I accept that you're working with Meech. I understand this is what you're going to do anyway, so I support you, and we're always here for you." To try to let him know that she supports him. Now, in the meantime, Terry, of course, he does decide to help out Markeisha because she gets kicked out by Boom, and she has her kids. So, and of course, it's raining. He decides to pick her up and take them to a hotel. Now, obviously, she wants to go back to his place, but he does not take her back there because he knows that Wanda is there. Okay. All right. So he takes her back to the hotel, spend some time with her, spend some time with the kids. But they have a conversation, and she tells him when he reveals to her that he's still involved with his ex and he has a kid. She doesn't think that he is able to take care of her financially as well as her kids. So she leaves him that note and she tells him to leave. All right. So he leaves. Okay. Now, before I get to the other part of this, we did see that he also has a heated conversation in this episode with his parents when he tells them that he's not going back to school. Now, I want to say, I love that conversation because he has that line in there when Charles asked him, "So what? So you and your brother just going to end up dead or in jail?" He said, "No. The least you can do is wish me luck because that's the same BMF song." So I love that they put that in there. I love that. That was great.
I
But
didn't make that connection.
yes, yes, I love that. I love they put that in there. Um, but the question I want to ask is of course Terry is still spending time with Wanda. He goes back to try to take the family photos, can't find his belt, and we did see early in this episode that Wanda took his belt. Then you see when Terry leaves, Wanda has a conversation with her mom, and her mom tells her, "Oh, you know what you need to do now. Oh, I got his chain, I got his jacket, I got this, that, or other." So my question is, what do you think Wanda's plan is for Terry?
This was like one of the things that completely stumped me. And one real quickly, I thought also the fact that yes, Luwanda and the kid was at the house, but I also my brain automatically registered. I still live at home with my parents because I'm still technically a teenager in high school. Remember, Markeisha is an adult legally, and she does not know that she is messing with a teenager who is up until a couple days ago still in high school. So that's where my brain went, and it kind of showed that dynamic. And yes, the whole fight. I thought she was very hypocritical with saying, "Oh, you're not financially stable, and you have a baby mama at home." And I'm like, "You're married. Your man just literally kicked you out on the street, and you talking about somebody's baby mama." And he brought that up, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "You are a hypocrite. You suck.
I agree.
Go back in the rain." I'd have kicked him out in the hotel. And I bought my Sega Genesis for the Raggedy Kid too. Not to say the kid is raggedy. That's wrong. For the Raggedy Mama, I bought a Sega Genesis, and that was expensive back in the day. So poo poo to both of y'all. Um, yes. So the question is, what? I don't know. That's what really threw me. My brain went to power for some reason, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna frame him for a murder. you know, that's what I thought because we've seen a lot of framing for murders. So I'm like, oh, they're gonna frame him for a murder. I don't know what's happening in terms of a bag. It really doesn't make any sense. And then for some reason, I thought that they was gonna dress up in his clothes and like pretend to do a crime to frame him. But either way, he's getting framed. I don't know in what regards. I'm like, it can't be DNA testing. That doesn't make any sense. And by the way, when she took the belt, my brain automatically went to, oh no, she's doing drugs. And she needs the belt to wrap around her arm, to get to the vein, to put the needle in. I'm like, that's a bit extravagant, but that's where my brain automatically went. but I don't know what's happening. We know it's framing, so it's either to murder somebody or to frame them, and like someone's already dead and we're gonna frame him. So here's the clothes, or weird way, maybe whomever is dressed up in his clothes kidnapped B-Mickie. I don't know. I'm completely lost in regards to those clothes, but they're framing him for something, and it's not something positive.
I agree 100%. I also think that he's being set up one way or another. It's really hard for me to determine what it is because obviously they could be taking his stuff and selling it for money, but I don't really think it's that because again,
No, it was like a raggedy belt and some his raggedy shirt.
but no, but she said she has his chain and his jacket as well. She said that in that conversation too. So that's
Then
why I
why
said
not
I
just
don't really
steal
know.
the chain? Why are you doing belts, jackets, and coats or shoes or whatever it was? Why not just a chain?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. So it is some type of setup. I don't really know what it is. Um, we have to, I guess, wait and see. And obviously, the actress that plays her didn't drop any clues in the interview that you had when you had an interview with her. Uh, you know, and you know her as well as Lala. Yeah, you had an interview. You had an
No,
interview
in
with her,
terms,
Lala.
I interviewed the guy who plays Terry, her,
Yeah,
and Lala, and
yeah.
they emphasize that this is going to be some kind of love triangle.
Okay.
Oh, I
What's that?
I don't know, but hear me out. If there's a love triangle between the two, and they explain to me that there's in-house fighting back and forth between the two women, she Boom doesn't know what's going on with Terry and Lakeisha. Wanda maybe does know and is going to say, I don't know, sneak in to put the clothes in the house. And so it makes it look like, oh, Terry is staying there.
Yep.
Maybe I could be going completely over the top with this, but somehow I feel Boom is going to confront Terry about Lakeisha because they had met. Remember they met, and he's going to figure out you're sleeping with Lakeisha, because remember what you said was he's a very abusive man. And Terry stated that the guy who plays Terry, there will be some kind of confrontation. And obviously, at that time, I only seen a handful of episodes. It was only three, so I didn't understand what was really going on. So the gems that are dropped is we have the answer. Maybe, maybe not. They could be lying. Boom, Lawanda, uh, 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 Lakeisha, and Terry. They don't have it out. They're framing him. So that's gonna you this is how you're acting, and I know that you're cheating. And while I may not care that you're cheating, but I'ma frame you because the mama looked like she been through something, and the mama looked like all men are the same. They just raggedy.
Yep.
And look at
Yep.
your daddy. Your daddy left me, and now look at Terry. Terry ain't nothing but just your daddy. So, yep, that's what I think is gonna happen. So thank you for
Yeah.
saying that because I forgot about the interview.
Yeah, that's what I thought about. I was wondering if they dropped any clues in that interview, and yeah, as you pointed out, they did. So I obviously Terry has to have a confrontation with Boom anyway because he needs to get rid of him so he can actually finally get Markeisha in the end. So that's going to happen at some point. I
But
don't
do
know
we
when
want
it's going to
Markeisha?
happen.
Markeisha has a lot of baggage. See, he's
Well, yeah,
thinking with his little teenage brain. He needs to be an adult
well,
brain. And I can't, and not like his daddy Charles, because Charles is a whole nother, he got a stupid brain. His brain is an adult, but it's stupid.
yeah. Well. The thing is, though, we know in the future from when this show started, he does end up with her, even though they didn't show her. They had the photo of them together. So we know he's going to end up with her,
Mm.
but it's the question of whether or not this confrontation with Boone happens in the next couple episodes, which I kind of think it is going to because they probably want to end the season off on a high note, or is this going to be something that happens next season? I mean, we have to wait and see, but obviously, the confrontation is definitely coming. I think we can agree that that's going to happen for sure. Um, but see that, yeah, those are very good theories. Those are very good theories. I'm very curious to know what everyone else has to say about some of these questions as well. Um, I have one more question I wanted to ask, and then we can talk about other stuff you want to mention from this episode. Um, so the next question I want to ask pertains to um, this is more so about something we spoke about earlier. We talked about
Uh-huh.
Meech in this episode and him deciding he's focused on expansion. He's making all of these moves, and of course he has the support of Terry. But now as we find out in this episode, K9 basically is deciding not to pay the 20 million that he owes to his Colombian Connect. And of course, when Meech finds this information out, he's thinking, hey, K9 don't want that contact anymore. Why don't we take that contact from him? The Connect, rather. So when he talks to Terry about it, Terry is saying that that's very risky. You shouldn't do that. And again, let's rely on B-Mickie's guy that B-Mickie claims that he has somebody that we can work with. After watching the end of this episode, I think it's very obvious now that Meech is probably going to try to go after this Colombian Connect. So my question is, in doing so, well, this is really a two-part question. Number one, do you think that there are going to be more crew members that start to turn on Terry and Meech? Because we saw in the beginning of this episode their boy Suki get blown away to bits. You saw, and then as you mentioned, the other guy that Terry got into a fight with, that was they were all part of their organization, and the other guy, there was another friend that tried to stop them when they were beating up the guy, and then
And they
they
put a
they prevented
gun
him
in the
from
back of
doing
his
that.
head.
Yeah. So the question is two-part question. Number one, do you think that more people within their organization are going to start to turn on them? And then number two, what do you think is going to happen if K9 ever finds out that Meech knows about this Colombian Connect?
Okay, so first question first is yes, because one, we need some drama. I mean, we do know that the BMF itself, there was some things that popped off, but it wasn't like this big murderous crime spree. But for the sake of the show, we need some drama, we need some murder, we need some turncoats. And I think that this is a wonderful way to replace B-Mickie. By having everyone turn and be jealous of each other, and we saw kind of sprinkles. We've seen a lot of sprinkles of that throughout this entire season and the previous season. When they always said, we're family, we come together, we're Vin Diesel family. So yes, but at the same time, you're in a situation where it is about territory and money and jealousy and money and pride and ego. So yes, we do need that. We do need that in-house fighting. We do need more indications of people crossing each other, and I think that that's what makes for good, compelling TV. On top of that, with B-Mickie status right now being unknown, even to the cops, I don't think that Detective Brian is going to be like, well, he's gone, I'm done. Let me wash my hands of this and walk away. With him and Jen involved, and now Jen 100% involved with this, I feel that they're going to continue to do more tracking and following. Remember, they've been following Terry, and they're going to find someone else to replace B-Mickie, who is more desperate for them to desperate for the downfall of BMF or the two brothers in general. So yes, there is going to be more in-house fighting, and again, compelling TV. And we're seeing sprinkles of that. Also, in case with the expansion situation, that involves more people. That involves more people and more arguments and more conflict. And that is something when you start adding different attitudes and different styles and people from different areas and ways and different codes, that creates more conflict as well. And as opposed for your second question, what is your second question again?
My second question is, what do you think K9's reaction is going to be once he finds out that Meech knows about this Colombian Connect?
So here's the thing. I had a very interesting conversation with the actor who plays K9, Raymond Lawrence, and he had explained to me that he views what was it, Meech, as a mentor. He wants to be a mentor to Meech. And therefore, I don't think that there will be, and oh, you stole my contact, I'm gonna come and kill you now. I think that he may have a sense of pride to say, oh, you were smart enough to take what I didn't want and kind of make it your own. I completely wash my hands of the Colombians, even though this is the stupidest move I've ever seen and logically doesn't make any sense. And even if you looked at how K9 responds and reacts, he looks like someone who is a man who demands respect, but is smart enough not to completely cross people like the Colombians, who is like the basically like a mafia in the industry that they're in. That's not the smartest move. Pookie and them, okay, maybe you can get away with that. We've seen him cut lips off of Big L. We've seen him do other kind of gross things, shoot people broad daylight. A lot of people die in the light more than they do at night. But it's amazing. It's like a reverse Gotham over there. But we've seen that situation, and to do something so stupid, I wonder why. But here's the thing: I also wonder about if the Colombians find out that Meech is working with Canine, will they come after Meech and be like, oh, we want both you and Meech dead. You belong to him. Now you're going to inherit his sins as well. $20 million to us is like, oh, Black Jesus, we cannot pay that. But $20 million to them, their lifestyle, and the amount of money that the cash flow that comes in, especially when we start hitting the 90s and the drug era, we've heard of people like Frank Lucas saying, I'm making $1 million a day. So what is it, and what is the reason as to why you're really not paying him? That's what I really want to know. But I think that he's not going to mind in terms of him going to the Colombians. But I just wonder if the Colombians is going to be the best option, especially considering the guy who you kind of work for and is your mentor and has associations with owes them $20 million.
That is a very, very good points across the board. Um, well, let me say first, in regards to K9, I think that's an excellent response. I look forward to seeing your interview with the actor. Um,
Hmm.
I think yeah, I'm curious to see how that interaction goes down. I do believe though, if they do find out that he is working with K9, like you said, that could be a problem for both of them. So I hopefully we'll get an answer to how that whole situation plays out in the weeks ahead. So we'll see about that. But as for the other members turning on Terry and Meech, yes, that 100% will happen. And hey, who knows? Maybe some of them already could have already made that turn, and they were the ones that facilitated this attack on B-Mickie at the end of this episode. We don't know that yet, but it makes sense because I just kind of feel like it makes sense for there to be tension because again, this is a family. They kept saying this is a family. In the mafia movies, there's always drama that happens within the family and stuff like that. So it makes sense that there's going to be issues with all these different groups. And again, as you alluded to and said already, there are multiple branches of BMF, which eventually, when it expanded into different areas, so we obviously will see that as well. But yeah, as for what's happening in Detroit, there's going to be a lot of issues with that group as is. So I'm curious to see what happens because Terry and Meech definitely they better watch their backs on who they trust, so on and so forth, moving forward. Yeah.
I completely agree. It's getting steamy.
Yes. Yes. So look forward to seeing what happens. Um, but that was the gist of the questions that I wanted to ask now Was there anything else that you wanted to discuss that happened in this episode? I do have one comment to make, but I'll get into that later. But I'm curious to hear what you want to say about other things that happened in this episode you think are worth mentioning.
Nikki, baby Nikki. I am concerned about Nikki. She is trying to be her own person. We saw her get her first job at the beauty salon where she's sweeping up the store. And we see that she wants not necessarily a sense of freedom, but she wants an escapism from her family and her brothers. The fact that they're selling drugs is not something that she wants to be a part of. She was there when Lamar was essentially going to kill her mother, and she's not stupid. She knows who Lamar is. She knows the situation that the brothers are in and what Lamar being there represents. And the fact that we saw her, basically saying, everyone, you all the same, and how they just kind of impeded on her place of business or where she was working to set up to do drug, to hold packages that were basically drug packages in there. She can't find a way to escape them. And so I'm really interested and also concerned about where her mindset is at this point. Granted, we know what's going on with Lucille and Terry, not Terry, Lucille and Charles, but at the same time, they seem to be so involved with themselves and the brothers, their two sons, that for me, Nikki seems abandoned at this point. She can't go to her parents because they're concerned about what's going on with Terry and Meech. So I wonder who is going to be that lifeline for her, who is going to be that mentor, and I wonder, is she going to be able to escape the pattern that basically this family is going through? She can't seem to escape her brother, and she's constantly surrounded by drugs. So will she end up leaving that job at the beauty salon? I don't know, but you can clearly see how she confronted the owner, the girl, oh, we grown, we're doing business over here. This is not a place that she wants to be in. And so I'm just really concerned as to where she's going to be. So that was kind of my main thing there. Um, yeah, that was just my main thing that seemed to stick out the most for me. And then also the whole situation with the burial plots. I thought that was a lot of foreshadowing. With Meech buying burial plots, we know that this is a business, an industry where you either end up in jail or you end up dead. So does this mean kind of foreshadowing B-Mickie's death? Mama's not looking too good. He wants to make sure that they're buried next to each other. We saw that B-Mickie was kidnapped. We don't know what's going to happen after that. We don't know if it's like a torture kill situation. We don't know who's doing it. We don't know if it's the Colombians. But it could easily be that foreshadowing of B-Mickie be bye. So I we have to wait and see. But that was something that kind of really stuck out for me. And then also, well, I can't even answer that. I was gonna say, where is B-Mickie fleeing to? And then I realized, oh, he's kidnapped. He's fleeing to the car. He's fleeing to the trunk of the car right now. So yeah, that was interesting. And then also on top of that, Detective Jin, she kind of throwing all of her everything to essentially, I don't want to say a dirty cop, but like a needy. I don't know what you would call it, but
Yeah.
she's that gray line cop. That path where she's walking. Where is that going to lead both of them? I wonder. And also, we never got an update on the son who was getting bullied at school. Is he now like happy and living a carefree life?
Well, no, he isn't happy. We saw that B-Mickie beat up the bullies that were bothering him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens with that situation. But one point that I want to
Mm-hmm.
make, and again, those were excellent things that you brought up, especially the stuff about Nikki, because I definitely want to see where that goes. She is not in a safe environment. whether if she's at home, there's hostile stuff happening with her parents, and then now you have Meech doing business with this salon owner. Yeah, it's all bad stuff. So I want to see what happens with that character for sure. But one thing I want to
Mhm.
mention, since you brought it up, what do you think of the subtle hints in this episode? The conversation between Detective Bryant and Jen, and the whole thing about potentially
I was,
hooking up. Yeah, that just
but
came
isn't
completely out of
she?
nowhere.
She's a
But go ahead.
lesbian. So isn't she a lesbian?
Oh no, she's not. You're thinking of
She's not a
Power.
lesbian.
You're thinking of Power
Ugh.
and yeah, Omar Omar Epps' character, Howard. No, but I thought that just came out of completely nowhere because I know they were
That
watching.
was
Terry was,
that was uncomfortable.
but it took a minute. They took a minute and they paused and looked at each other. That made you think, oh, well, this might happen. So that was a
No.
very interesting twist.
I think that was just, the writers going chuckle chuckle. But no, I don't want that to happen. Please don't let that happen. I don't want that to happen. I'm good. So no.
Hey, I'm good too, but we'll see what happens. You got to remember at the beginning of BMF, it says some of this stuff actually happened, but then it might be dramatized for further effects. So we'll see what
I don't I
happens.
don't I don't need that. I'm kind of good on that. We don't need that. At first I was like, oh no, please. No. Are you sure she's not a
Yeah. I'm positive. I'm positive
lesbian?
she
Okay.
isn't.
Well, yeah, no, I'm good with that not happening because there's no need to. There's literally no chemistry. I think they was just joking and making the audience purposely think something was going to happen and making us uncomfortable. But no,
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
no,
We'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see.
no, no. It doesn't make any sense for me. So we don't need that. No, I think it was just circumstances. They was having fun, and then Terry and Lakeisha was doing what they was doing, and it was just to add some kind of weird awkwardness to the scene. So no.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I
Did you
agree.
think
But
something?
I mean, they took a minute and they paused, so that I didn't know. Obviously, if it's a joke that probably overstayed its
It's a
welcome.
joke.
But we'll have
It's
to
a
see.
joke.
We'll see what happens. Obviously, we know. Yeah, I think the bigger question you have is Detective Bryant is obviously desperate to take down Meech. He will do whatever he has to do, and she is
Mhm.
now bordering that line as well because she needs to know
Mhm.
what he's doing as a partner. So obviously, some of her morality, I think, is going to be tested as well in the next couple episodes. But outside of that, yeah, the romance thing is probably not going to happen. But we'll see what happens.
It doesn't need to. I think it's just unnecessary. It's just unnecessary. There's no. There's. Are you sure she's not gay? I really thought she was
Yeah,
gay, but
yeah.
no, no. It just doesn't make any sense. No.
They didn't really allude to that she could be. I mean, I don't know, but I'm just saying that we'll see what happens. That's all I can
Because
say
I
because
know she
I
had
have
the
no idea.
sister.
Yeah, she had the
There
sister
was the
that
whole
got
situation with
killed.
the sister.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a conversation about that. No, I don't. It's just there's no reason. There's nothing. There's zero chemistry between the two actors. But like
Oh,
in a
hey,
good
well, hey.
way. We don't need the romantic. There's zero romantic chemistry between the two actors.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Um, well, on that note, I think is that all you wanted to say about this episode? Did you have anything else you
I
wanted to
think
say?
that's everything. I was literally looking up like, is she gay? I was convinced the
No,
detective
no.
that Veronica was gay. But no, that it seemed to be a very tightly knit episode. I loved the opening. The music is really good.
Oh
It's
yeah, was
popping,
that
as the
shit?
children say. And that opening, I kind of when they went back home, I kind of was hoping for something would be there, and like in terms of maybe them storming in the house, Ma, are you okay, Ma? But we didn't get that.
Yeah,
I wish we did.
I must admit I didn't like that either because it was a bit of a time jump. because it's like a week later or so. So yeah, I was a little disappointed because I wanted to see what the immediate reaction was going to be when they got back, but they purposely took some time off from that. So, but still,
Like
very
that
good development.
yeah, that was
Yeah, very good development still. So we'll see what happens from here for sure. Uh,
absolutely. I like the show. It's a very good episode. Kept
I agree.
everything going, and rest in peace, B-Mickie.
Well, yeah, his death is coming. So yeah, but in the meantime, rest in peace, Saki, because he definitely dead. You said at the very beginning of the episode, he's dead. Before you even heard the theme song, he was out. So rest in peace, and that
Where
is
he
Little Zane.
flew. That was
That
Little
is the
Zane?
rapper. Yeah, that is the rapper Little Zane. He's been on this show since season one. So salute to him. He did a good job as a character, even though we didn't really get to learn that much about the character. But it's all good. People have to go. It's part of the game. So,
So sad.
but on that note, I think that concludes our review of episode 6, Homecoming. Dana, do you have
hmm
any shout outs, plugs that you would like to give before we wrap up the show?
Shout outs. Thank you to everyone who is listening, to watching us. We have more interviews coming up with BMF. It took a little break, but we're back again with more episodes and more interviews that'll be upcoming. So thank you for that, and stay tuned to that. We also have a review, almost 3,000 words. A review, not really, but more like 2,000. A review of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium. I was much nicer. I was very harsh when I first saw it and was like enraged about how much I hated it. But then I calmed down and was able to think about it and process it. So we have a review on the site, thecoalition.com, coalition with a K. So you can check that out. And we'll be having a lot more interviews. We have a lot more TV shows that are coming up and more interviews involving those TV shows and movies as well. So stay tuned to that. Stay tuned to our big spoiler review of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium, and you kind of only need to watch the last 40 minutes of that movie to just get the whole gist of what's going on in the upcoming phases, because, whatever, waste of time. But yeah, other than that, have a great day, and look forward to more stuff that we have coming up and way more interviews and TV shows. Oh, and Power. Power, really quickly. I just wanted to say, if I can pull it up, maybe I cannot, but maybe Richard can. Um, Today I was on the set of Power 4, season 4. So if you're a Power fan, got some other stuff that's brewing in the pot for that. But I was on the set of that. There's a lot more. There's some videos and things that I'll upload later. Um, they were filming like literally behind my house, and it was like, oh snap, what's going on? They're like, oh, we're filming Power. Get out of our scene. So yeah, we have that that's coming on as well. So we look forward to Power season. We're on 3. Well, we will be reviewing 3, and we got some stuff with 4. So yay!
Definitely,
And they're still
definitely
filming
awesome.
now.
Oh yeah, still filming season 4 right now.
They're
So,
literally downstairs right now filming.
oh, okay. See, that's good. That's good. So
Mhm.
stay tuned for that for sure. Um, yeah. So as Dana mentioned, yeah, I want to give a shout out to everybody that's been supporting the channel, the people who have been commenting on the BMF reviews, some of our regular supporters over on the Coalition main channel, as well as our new subscribers. Thank you for your continued support. And if you enjoy these conversations, please feel free to comment your thoughts, like, and consider subscribing to this channel. We will be back next
Mhm.
week for another BMF discussion. And stay tuned because there's other shows we will be covering as well. But
Mhm.
in the meantime, take care, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you all next week.